Okay, oh, that's a good start. Hello, hello. Probably need some more water here. Daily video coming in hot. I'm loving some of the jokes you guys are putting out there too. Super funny. So, hey, my name is Derek LeCrone. Obviously, you know at this point, but I will start just announcing that as we have new people joining the team very regularly. I say new people, they're not new people on this planet, but great associate publishers and flip publishers joining our team to really help expand and grow. So, very excited to be doing this. A couple things, division meetings next week on March 5th in LA. If you haven't confirmed yet, please just drop me a text, an email, call me real quick. Hey, just want to make sure, even if you just want to double check to make sure you're on the list, whether you're in LA or the Desert Mountain division. Desert Mountain is on March 6th. That's in Salt Lake City. Very fantastic. We're working on the streaming portion of that too, for those of you that are a little bit further out. It's a new thing for me. So I believe we have the technical aspect worked out. But everybody that they can't confirm whether you'll be there in person or virtually, please just make sure you're on the list. And I believe I've confirmed with just about everybody at this point. So very exciting. I took a couple notes because there's so many good topics from all the phone calls and working with different folks. And I love the feedback. Some of you asking for different things I'm hearing. And I'm glad that you're finding these helpful as well. This is super fun. I love talking about the business. I really love our business. It's a fantastic business, that's for sure. And awesome. So, hey, what's great, by the way? Here's some hot news. And why do we do hot news? Well, a few things. One, it's just exciting to think about what's happening in our business sometimes. We have a new guy. He was a personal recruit of Mike Stefanelli, and he just got to baseline in 9 days last week. So that's pretty fantastic. He actually had 13 new clients, which might be a company record. I don't know if it is, but I think it is. 13 clients in one business week. That's pretty incredible stuff. I even think he might have went to high school with Jim Stallings. I could be wrong about that, but a little birdie mentioned something of the sort. So pretty cool. Why is that neat? It's really neat to think about when we want something in this world, what can happen? What does it look like? How do you land 13 new clients in a week? And it's pretty special, right? So the formula, obviously you have to have a great deal of appointments. We know that when we have more appointments, our energy is up too. We have more things to show up to. So well, I've never heard someone say, I completed 15 first appointments and I was exhausted from doing so. We are energized by doing hard things. Rejection is actually super good for the brain, makes us strong, which is sort of strange as well. But we know that we face a fair amount of rejection out there. That's just part of the business. It's one of the things that separates a publisher from other lines of work. So very exciting. Publisher's courage, the strength, and as Dave talked about this morning, the call, the willpower to go out there and do great things. So pretty cool to think about 13 clients in a single week. Really awesome. One more, mention here, and that is we have 1-day retraining coming up on March 4th. I actually wrote some notes here because there were so many things in the conversation. You might put a couple of bullet points on the screen. 1-day retraining, March 4th. If you haven't been to retraining is an interesting word because it could like poke the pride part of our muscle. Well, what do I need retraining for? Something like that. I've never actually, we don't have a winter team that thinks like that, but I always think about what's the best possible way to say something. So we'll probably think of a new title for that or something, but essentially it's a 1-day renewal of the BV and vows. That's one thing I usually refer to it as, where we go and just renew and refresh our thinking and the words and the style and the energy around different parts of the business, because the sharper we are, the better we can do, right? The more effective we are. So that's March 4th. You have emails in your inbox from the training department. I do believe we need to let them know pretty fast. If you are going to sign up for that, please just give them a shout out. Respond to that email today if you can. It's Tuesday, so that would be fantastic. And it makes me think that one of those traits of just high flyers, one of the most common traits in best version media that makes us greater, that our team really has this mixture of being both confident and curious. So when I think about how do I go into training or how do I go into conference calls, I'm both confident that what we're doing is fantastic, and I'm curious to sort of see what I can absorb that can continue to make me better. So pretty cool. Speaking of language and thinking, that is one of the hot topics that has been on my mind a lot lately, and especially as I'm talking to some of you, we were talking about closing and different parts of the presentation. I do a lot of role playing, and role playing the slides, like the ad size slide, things like that, or the campaign duration slide, right? One of the objections we hear is about the duration. And I was reading the campaign duration slide. This has happened many times over the last few weeks. Someone's like, man, I'm not using those words. So someone even said, where'd you get those words? And they're right on the slide. So the words that we use have an incredible impact in a sales meeting, or in general, the people around us. I guess I'd call it levels to language. There's levels to the effectiveness of our language. A couple of things that I think about. I could, if I'm sitting across from a decision maker, say something like, you can do this, or you can do that, or I want you to do that, right? I want you to do that. It's not the most effective way to say something, because as much as people like to help each other, at the end of the day, as we're sitting there and we're just sitting down with someone, they may be more concerned about what they want, right? It would make sense they're trying to, guard and protect and grow their business, that they're not sure if you have their best interest in mind, so they need to come to their own decision. We'd like to think it. Some of us maybe give that impression and help them understand that right away by showing up a certain way. But some people are just a little more skeptical. They may have some business trauma of, having failed things happen in the past. And so instead of me saying, I want you to do this, a great language upgrade, we could say would be something like what most businesses do, right? So just thinking about this a lot. What are some other language upgrades in our business? When I'm thinking about setting a second appointment, that's another part of our business that's really, really important. We can say things like, well, I can come back here, is that good for you? And they can say no, and then you're kind of stuck. So, what's a way to upgrade that? Our phone scripts, the way we have our phone scripts set up are just so incredible, because you can use that type of formula all over the place, setting seconds, for example. So instead of saying, or can I is really interesting. Can I do this? Can I do that? Asking for permission, in a sense. Most people are the natural response when someone says, can I do this, is like a no. Maybe some of you, I have a couple of family members, their default is kind of sarcasm, and so their default is no, from almost like a sarcastic place too, right? Human nature stuff, really interesting things that some folks do. So, instead of can I do this, or are you okay with this, kind of the yes no questions that can create a brick wall, it's thinking about how do we do this together, right? So with a little bit of context sprinkled in there. When I think about seconds, pre-framing seconds is a really important, significant thing with great, hey, it seems like you want to do something. Really it's only going to take us about 5, maybe 10 minutes at the most when I come back. So since it won't take that long, I'm getting on my calendar. I've got a few minutes I can swing by here on Thursday. I can come by at 10:15, or I also have a 1:30. Which one's better for you, right? It's not a yes or no question. It's a which one is better for you. So who, what, when, why, how, more. It's like it's a positive guide, I guess you could say, positive guide. We're leading the conversation, but we're leading it in a way that is beneficial to both of us. I've given a little context. I've also kept it effective and tight, which business owners really, really respect, especially when you look at the top 10, 15 business owners, business types that we work with. And you think about realtors, like they appreciate some efficiency, some effectiveness, right? So that's important to them. So the other thing I think of on the campaign duration is simple, convicted statements. Simple. I think of this all over the place. I'm a huge fan of this idea of conviction over convincing. I don't need to spend any time convincing someone that the 12 or 24, 30, 36 editions are the right way to go, because I've done some research, right? Our training alone should give us conviction in that, but sometimes it's good to get some outside research. And I actually have some articles on LinkedIn. I know some of you have shared them and found them. There's one about small business advertising. It's a bit of a longer read, but I know some people even use it and print it out and take it for drop-offs for continued client education, things like that. But when you look at advertising science, right, once upon a time, you had your newspaper, your TV, your radio, right? And you had like 5 or 6 big brands, maybe a little bit of an exaggeration, but someone only had to see a commercial a few times to go, oh, Coca-Cola, that seems pretty cool. I think I'll try one of those, right? Or maybe it was Tiffany's jewelry once upon a time, or some big department store. Ford Motors, right? There were three car companies. I don't know what big four car companies. Little American history, whoops. But it didn't take a lot of advertising. And I think I termed Tim Harrison say this years ago, the mind share, someone's mind share. That's what advertisers were competing for. And back then, there was a lot more space, less competition and more space. So people only needed to see an ad, television, radio, newspaper, a few times, 3, 4, 5, 6 times at the most, to build trust and become familiar. Well, fast forward, think about today's world. There's advertising everywhere. There's a million brands. There's a ton of options. So how do you, get your business into some of that mind share, frequency, and repetition? So the modern science shows now it's, anywhere between 8 and 15 or 8 and 16 times that a consumer, a client, needs to see a business's message, see a business's message, their logo, before they become familiar and begin to trust it. Where I'm at right now, there's some billboards on the freeway, and there's an injury attorney, and they've been running this campaign for, gosh, many, many months on several billboards, right? So I see this all over the place. It's kind of a goofy billboard, but they say size matters. They have various pictures. They've been kind of switching it up. The message is the same, but the picture is a little bit different. And they say size matters. Work with the nation's largest injury law firm, right? So that's their thing. And I'll tell you, the first time I saw it, it was like, kind of amusing, goofy a bit, almost like off-putting in some ways. I could say that could be off-putting, like, whoa, that's a strong message. And then fast forward, see it on more billboards, month after month. I see it where I go train jujitsu. It's like right across the street, and I come out of jujitsu regularly, see this billboard and kind of chuckle, and I have this like positive mental association, right? Just had a great time, see a giant ad, it's also a little amusing, and it's grown on me, right? First time I saw it, not a big deal. First 1, 2, 3 times, the more I saw it, and the longer I saw it, the more I'm like, gosh, if I had a need for a personal injury attorney, I know who I'm calling. I would go find one of those billboards if I had to, and call that company at this point. Think about our publications with that, right? That's the same thing we do with our publications. There are people reading your publication, or if you're a preprint, that will read your publication, that will seek it out and go, hey, there's real estate agents in there. Hey, there's auto insurance. Something will come up in their life. They will need that service, and they will hunt down and seek your publication. If that business owner isn't in there anymore because they some other magazine they ran for 3 months and they think it's going to work in ours for 3, they're missing a huge chunk of the market and opportunity. They're not building that familiarity, building that trust. So that's really, really important to think about. So I say all that because I started talking about simple convicted statements and went off on more of a branding kick here, but the conviction and simplicity in that for me is I don't need to explain all of that in a meeting most of the time, or at all. If stories do sell, so that's really powerful, but I don't need to explain all that, because the language in the appointment, in the presentation, actually describe that and do a good job of explaining it. But you might have some tools in your toolkit like, hey, once upon a time, people only needed to see a message a few times in order to become familiar or trust the brand or know they exist. In today's world, as you can imagine, with all of the technology and just everything that is inundating folks, it takes more. And modern science shows it takes anywhere from 10 to 15 times, 10 to 16 times, somewhere around there, in order for a consumer to become familiar or trust a brand. So that's why our minimum are the 12 editions, especially with the digital component layered over it. They will absolutely get the opportunity to see your brand, over the 12 times, over the next 12 editions, so that we can make sure you get what you need in terms of frequency and consistency for an effective campaign. Does that make sense? Boom, right? There you go. So hopefully you like that. I had some other notes on here, but this is already, how deep are we in here on this one? We're going kind of long. So I'm just gonna leave it with that. Any other topics, thoughts, things you want, I could do this all day long. I love talking to you guys. Someone just called, a few folks called, so I'm gonna call you back. and very exciting stuff happening in the business. Think about all the big things. We know that yeses are successes. Dave's message this morning was spot on of just in 8 years of doing this, have yet to work with someone or seen anybody that gets their head right, guards the culture, right? You have to know what the culture is, part of that foundation of humility, professional will on there, fun-loving spirit, having some fun, compassionate heart. Like these things really matter. Get your head right, guard the culture, get 3 S's. Those 3 things are what make us super special and really awesome seeing all the great work out there.